I am Raya, the mother of Boston Lloyd, and I'm co-producing a movie to help show people what my son was about. He was a legend. He would guest pose at the age of 5 for the Venice Beach shows, NPC, and the ABA shows, the natural shows. He was all over the place when he was a little child. He loved the sport of bodybuilding. But then he got into the bodybuilding world with the drug scene, the steroids, the ephedra, oxy, all of it killed my son. And I'm here to produce a movie to show people what goes on in the bodybuilding world. My son was the first person to go public with what happens in the bodybuilding world. And I'm here to keep his dream going, to show exactly what is going on. And it's not just my son passing away, many other bodybuilders keep dying. So right now we need to show you in this documentary what is going on in the bodybuilding world and why so many people are dying. I am here co-producing a movie to make a difference and show the legacy of my son.
Get big or die trying. Get big or die.
I miss you. I don't wanna sit in silence.
Boston Lloyd.
I miss you.
I'm gonna pull out and apply pressure. And just massage a little bit. Boom, done.
We don't care what they gotta take. We don't care what health issues they have. At the end of the day, as a fan, we just wanna see big freaky guys on stage. And that's what we're willing to pay money for.
The winner is Boston Lloyd.
The bodybuilding world is actually kind of a sick world. And people are dying right now. Steroids is the addiction, not bodybuilding, but steroids, and what's going into getting these people huge.
Boston, his legacy is that he was the first to come out on the camera showing safe way to inject, and this is how to inject. But everybody says, you know, you're crazy, you're going to get arrested, you're going to get thrown in jail, you know, the FBI is going to be investigating you, blah, blah, blah.
It's really interesting. It was like he was playing Russian roulette. So it's just a disaster, a recipe for disaster. It really, really is.
I think that was one of the things also that drew Boston to the sport. I think he liked the danger aspect of it. It's like rolling the dice, it's Russian roulette.
There will be more and more people dying. Get big, die trying was his logo.
You come out looking great, or you die doing it, and that was his tattoo. I mean, right there, that was his theme of his life.
Unveiling Boston Lloyd, the most controversial bodybuilding icon and firebrand. His boldness and surprising honesty ignited a massive online following and an upheaval in the bodybuilding universe. But there's much more to him than his fans and the public are aware of. In the powerhouse era of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, top bodybuilders had a hidden advantage: performance-enhancing drugs, commonly known as PEDs. Steroids pumped their game, but lips were sealed, while their stash was sourced from local pharmacies.
Before 1990, anabolic steroids were not controlled substances, and no one even cared about it, because no one even knew what it was, because there was no internet. The magazines never discussed anabolic steroids. For the 80s and early 90s, no one talked about this. The only way you knew was you talked to guys at the gym, and you found out what they were doing.
It was probably more used by serious competitors. It just was frowned upon by the supplement industry, the magazines. They don't want people to attribute the pro physiques to enhanced PEDs.
The winning physique for bodybuilding is an extreme look. So they want extreme muscularity. That's what's going to win a professional show. That is actually what drives people to be interested in bodybuilding. People want to see the freak show, and the freak show is the gigantic monsters, and the freak show is the extreme leanness.
Both of Boston Lloyd's parents, John and Marie, were bodybuilding champions who owned a Gold's Gym for hardcore weightlifters. Born in '92, Boston was destined for greatness. With a champion bodybuilding pedigree and a Gold's Gym upbringing, Boston's bodybuilding rise seemed his destiny.
I know John and Marie very well. I trained in their gym for a number of years. Both of them were competitive bodybuilders. Boston basically grew up in bodybuilding. He grew up in a gym, a bodybuilder's gym, a hardcore gym, with both of his parents being bodybuilders.
I started at 6. I started doing guest posing. Oh, with your dad? No, it was actually my mom. I was guest posing at national shows and I was raising money with kids with cancer for the Ronald McDonald Association.
At a young age, he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to help people. He'd get up on stage and pose. He'd go into the audience and raise money.
He is the poster child for Ronald McDonald Charity, and he wants, we all need to donate to this great cause, the Ronald McDonald Fund. He's selling pictures for $5 that goes towards kids with cancer. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big welcome for the amazing 6-year-old from Northridge, Boston Lloyd.
They did specials on TV about the kid, the muscle kid, the kid with the heart.
Boston had been working on choreography with Marie. We would be choreographing routines for everybody. So Boston had this knack. He was very comfortable as far as his dancing transition between poses. So he was like this kid that, he's like, what is this kid? He already knows how to pose. And so the crowd lit up.
Even as a taught guest posing to raise money for all kinds of charities, he stole the spotlight and secured his spot as a rising bodybuilding sensation. The world witnessed his meteoric rise throughout his youth. From toddler to teen, Boston's fiery passion and discipline sculpted a jaw-dropping physique. He was getting paid $40 an hour to train people at my house. And then more and more people wanted him to get trained. He worked with also special needs adult children. So it was kind of cool that, he'd get paid, but he liked what he did. He loved what he did. And that's what kind of spurred him on in life to who he became.
Oh man, doing sports with Boston was always amazing because he pushed me to my limit. I was always a chubbier guy than he was, so he would be like, bro, come on, you could do it. He was a motivational type of person. Me being with Boston, and it gave me a sense of structure that I didn't have.
To do his routine, let's bring him out. That would be Boston Lloyd.
Driven by passion, Boston hit the stage, refusing to settle, seeking that extra edge. Enter the world of performance-enhancing drugs and steroids.
I was a top-level bodybuilder in the NPC. I was probably considered one of the biggest, hardest, freakiest guys back in the 90s and early 2000s. Boston reached out to me. I believe he was getting ready for a competition, and he wanted my help.
I started getting into the whole pro hormone thing, and that's when I got that crazy bad gyno, and that was when I was 17. I was going to start my first steroid cycle at 17, and they had a feeling something was up, because I was on all these pro hormones, and I went from 170 to 230 in high school.
But I remember he was a teenager at the time, and I was kind of amazed at how much knowledge he kind of had for a teenager and how much he was already doing in terms of supplementation and PEDs. And it seemed like he was very thirsty for knowledge, like the right way to do things. And so I felt like that was someone I wanted to align myself with, because I said, he needs to be steered in the right direction.
I suppose every serious bodybuilder who wants to pursue the pro athlete bodybuilder status has to ask themselves at some point in time, do I take the enhancing drugs or not? So I think there's a lot of pressure to use. And then once you start using, it's a slippery slope. It's an immediate courtship. You court, you get married, you live together.
Fearless and daring, Boston soon stood apart from the competition. His appetite for experimentation is enormous. He wanted to compete, and I kind of noticed he was getting a little bit too big. So I went through his room with my neighbor, and then we found steroids. I confiscated them, and I said no more. And I said, this ain't the way. You're 16 years old. This has got to go.
Boston, I talked I talked his ear off. I talked those blue in the face regarding the subject of being conservative with the anabolics and because when Boston started getting into it, he wanted to be the best he could be.
So that's kind of bring him into the steroid world and the bodybuilding world. You know, get big, die trying. He had a tattoo on his arm. Everything was about getting big. The sad thing about steroids and getting big is that everybody says how great you look.
Boston also, you know, Boston was a very good bodybuilder. I think he could have gone all the way in bodybuilding. I think his head was what messed him up. I don't know why he would stop competing. I think he was insecure with how he looked. I don't know why, because he had a great physique.
When I was younger, I used to lactate. Like I could push my nipple down and shoot probably 5 feet of fluid. That was the worst, yeah. And then I got my glands cut out. That didn't feel shitty. It's just kind of weird that you could just shoot, you know, this toxic waste that smells like fucking, it's just gross, man. You just shoot out of your nipples. I had puffy ass nipples. I didn't know what was going on. I was 17.
Boston's was jacked up after those pro hormones. When he was starting to secrete and was having problems with his kind of gynestia, his liver enzymes and his kidney enzymes were already high.
I've always had this recommendation about steroids in kids. The concentric growth, that's the most concern in young men, because I don't think men can reach the total growth potential of 18 or even 19. Also, you're cutting off your natural testosterone. Most important, once we give you testosterone, we cut off your natural production, which isn't really good if you're young. Testosterone peaks at age 25.
And so he walks out, never forget it, the parking lot, going to the car from the doctor's office. He goes, "Dad, you know I'm not going to listen to that doctor."
So taking these drugs can diminish their maximal height potentially, may also diminish their lifelong bone health. So these hormones can also block puberty, believe it or not, and people may not be able to have their full reproductive potential.
So I was always trying to coach Boston, trying to steer him in a more conservative direction. But Boston had his ways, he had his mindset that he was gonna, and it led early on to where he wanted to experiment with things.
I was still doing very low dose stuff. Like I hired Dave Kallick when I was 18. You know Dave Kallick?
Yeah.
And he brought me into it's called the Muscle Contest in Culver City. I ended up winning my teen class. I won my novice class. I won the novice overall. I won my class in open. And I lost the overall by 1 point. I was shredded, but I was like a little swimmer. You know, I was tiny.
As the new millennium dawned, Boston grappled with the veil of secrecy shrouding bodybuilding. Frustration mounted as nobody dared to discuss steroids, even in the emerging internet realm. The few who touched on the topic only spoke in generalities, avoiding personal admissions or side effects. However, the world of bodybuilding was about to be revolutionized by the internet's boundless power and the dawning era of the information highway. The change was unavoidably on the horizon.
The reason people don't talk openly about steroids, and I'm going to say even with general athletes, is because it's taboo. People look at it as it's cheating. However, I think what they often don't realize is in non-tested federations, when everybody is utilizing and they're not tested, you know, it's not really cheating, because that's almost the leveling surface to be able to be competitive.
The blue digit on the floor.
It wasn't until probably the early 2000s that the real information highway started, and until Facebook launched, probably, what was that, 2005? That's when, I think, when social media really took off. Now all of a sudden everyone knew about everything, and it was all about radical honesty, like what Boston was doing all along, because the more you talked about stuff, the more followers you got, right? And the more hits and likes you got.
In 2013, Boston went whistleblower. Injecting steroids on camera and his raw honesty about the sport generates a viral response. His raw honesty about anabolic steroids and PEDs went viral on YouTube. Some hailed his courage as heroic, while others bashed him for tarnishing their beloved sports image. It was a storm of mixed reactions.
I didn't really think it was going to go viral. I really didn't. You know, I was like, I won the contract at 21. Just to let you know, this is what I did, A to Z. I from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, and it was like a 35-minute video, and it went viral. Everybody started putting it on their YouTube channels, and it just blew up.
It's just known in the bodybuilding community that everybody has to take steroids to get to an elite level, but nobody wants to talk about it. And it's just one of those things like the elephant in the room. Oh, everybody knows that everybody's taking steroids and taking this and taking that, but nobody wants to discuss it. And so Boston was just like, yes, I take this is what I do, this is the reality of the sport.
First place goes to Boston and Ariama Palumbo.
People were talking about steroids, you know, when social media was launched and Facebook came about and then Instagram, but they weren't really talking about how they personally were using them. We're giving people daily vlogs, showing them how they injected it, where they injected it. Boston took that to another level, and I think that as crazy as people thought he was, he found something that no one else had discovered, a way to attract a lot of followers very rapidly.
But I was the first one, and it's funny, man, like the same guys that were like, you're gonna get arrested, you can't talk openly about this stuff. And obviously I was a little scared at first because everyone was blowing me up, but I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna do it anyways. Those same guys a year later were like, oh, nothing happened to Boston, he's still doing his thing. And they saw how much attention it was bringing them, and then everyone and their mom started talking about it, and then it blew up.
So Boston is from the, I call the social media era. And, he probably is one of the few people who was responsible for kind of launching that whole era.
When I was looking at the videos, I was actually watching them in real time as they were being posted, the videos of him on YouTube and the interviews and just listening to the amount of drugs and steroids he was actually injecting into his body. I thought he was nuts. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. But me being his friend, I always have his back. So like, I didn't judge him for it, but I was like, dude, just me being his friend, I supported just what he was doing because I knew he was just a rebel.
He tried everything because he wanted to know what it would be like. So he did almost all these different steroids to see how they worked. What made him famous was that he was the first bodybuilder to tell it all. He said everything he took. He was the first pioneer bodybuilder to tell it all.
I would say he's one of the first few people who really started talking about anabolic steroids, online, like about themselves. I was in that genre of giving information, but I wasn't like, hey, I'm going to show you how I inject my testosterone today. I didn't go to that extreme. I think he took it to the next extreme, and people loved it. They loved it, and they flocked to him like he was a shepherd.
I have my steroid room. I have all my steroids. I have my, there's like injectable L-carnitine and injectable amino acids. I got my adenosine monophosphate and all this shit, right? I go in my room, I say, hey, I'm going to take 200 mg of TNE, testo ester, which is basically test suspension, but in oil, right?
Boston became a beacon for those battling the sport's pressures and temptations, pushing for safer practices and stressing the significance of monitoring diet, cardiovascular health, and blood pressure. He became a true advocate for a healthier path in self-testing the well-being of all bodybuilders.
I don't even know how he did it, to be honest with you, because I try to be honest 100% of the time, and it's hard. A lot of people don't want to hear the truth, but Boston didn't care. He was radically honest, and I think that's why the public who watched his, social media, watched his YouTube channel, or all the interviews he did with other people and podcasts, stuff like that, they loved him because he was so radically honest that it was a pleasure to listen to him.
He was definitely the face of just being open about steroids. And because he was the only person that was open about steroids at the time, a lot of people came to him for advice. But he told people straight out, I don't recommend you do what I do. What I do is for me, and I like to experiment, but he never recommended that to anyone that came to him. So he became that person that a lot of people went to and trusted, and a lot of people trusted him because he was so honest.
And if you take steroids and you think that shooting steroids causes you to beat your wife, get off the fucking steroids, you know what I mean? I think steroids have a bad rap, first of all, because they're an injectable. Anything dealing with needles, people get like kind of weird about. And there's no real research done on them. It's not really open to the mainstream, you know what I mean? It's not open to the public. Because I guarantee you 85% of the kids, or the people at the gym I go to across the street are on steroids and you would never even know.
No one else would do it. Like, people would say, that's great that he's doing it. I couldn't do this, but they appreciated that he could do it because he didn't care if he upset people or if people got pissed off at him or if people didn't like the truth that he was talking. That was his truth. And that, to me, that was something that I wish I could aspire to be that honest. And I try to. And but he was at a level above, I think, everyone in that sense.
Regardless, these protocols are just nuts. But a guy like Shelby with such a big audience where people are looking at his Instagram saying, wow, these girls are so in shape. How are they getting this dry and how are they getting this grainy? We do need to target him because this is not just one death. This is not a coincidence. This has happened. I think, Blue, you said there's four people, right? This is not a coincidence. This is happening on his watch. I've seen his protocols, and I haven't seen other protocols this crazy. I've seen crazy stuff, obviously, but not like this.
One of the things I loved about Boston, too, and I'd watched this happen several times, younger kids would come up to him, and because of Boston's persona, they would ask him questions about drugs, about steroids. And every time his response was the same. You don't need that. Let's get your diet right first. How's your diet? And for someone that was an advocate for 3cc and for steroids, he pushed diets so hard.
I have had the privilege of working with Boston for a few years. It was my first time competing at the PCA, and he was someone who was a great friend with Mikey, and he offered his services to me. He's very, very, very intelligent. That's the first thing I knew, is that he was very knowledgeable about everything when it comes to fitness. So with that, it made me feel comfortable.
There was times where he stopped what he was doing to help people. Boston was a very friendly guy. With the amount of followers and the amount of social media influence he put on the bodybuilding industry, he just never forgot about the people around him. You know, he was such a big social media influencer around the planet. Everybody knows who Boston is. It just goes to show that he changed the industry for the better.
If he was more proactive, he probably could have had millions and millions of followers. But Boston was like, you know, he was the anti-hero. As soon as he got people following him, he didn't want them to follow him anymore. It was like, I'm going to stop now. So he wasn't consistent. If he would have pushed, he probably, like I said, he would have probably had 10 million followers on I have no doubt about it.
As an entrepreneur, Boston saw success early on, leaving a trail of achievements in his wake. Boston Lloyd was a force to be reckoned with. He had 2 magazines that he was writing for. He wrote 3 books before the age of 19. He had a clothing line, a supplement line that did excellent. He had what you call the forum when they sold different products. He was one of the top most successful bodybuilders in the world.
Boston's entrepreneurial excellence and his successes as an entrepreneur in the bodybuilding industry, it's all based on one word: passion. Boston had such passion for bodybuilding and everything about bodybuilding. And when he spoke about his passions, you know, it came through that this kid loves what he does, right?
And he was the most wonderful father. He cared about his son. They would play, and he loved life. He loved his family.
I didn't think you could love another human as much as you can.
Is it really like that when people say
I didn't think you could love another human as much as you do. The love for your kid is unlike your love for your wife. It's unlike any love ever. Like, it's different.
Though Boston provided valuable insights to followers, his own journey grew increasingly risky, driven by a desire to push limits, battling addiction and the pressures of fame. Sadly, there was no turning back from the dangerous path he embarked upon.
I have my steroid room, I have all my steroids. I end up going in that steroid room with the mindset of just shooting testoester and walking out 5 minutes later. I end up staying in that room for 20 minutes shooting everything that I see, right? All right, guys, this is my team.
People don't realize how dangerous steroids are because they're attached to beautiful bodies. Because once you start chasing that, whatever it is, whether it's a steroid or it's pharmaceutical meth, I mean, you change your body chemistry and your neuroanatomy. It's like committing suicide one episode at a time. It's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope.
I'm IVing everything. I have the track marks on my foot. Oh, jeez.
I would try to talk to him about my concerns, but Boston was Boston. He was going to do what he wanted to do anyway, and I knew that when I met him. I would just voice my concerns, and I would never try to control him and give him an ultimatum, because I know that he was just going to do what he wanted to do anyway. That was just him. He was very hard-headed.
So there are dangers associated with particularly abuse of the anabolic steroids, in particular to the cardiovascular system, to the liver, particularly if you're doing oral steroids. It could also damage the kidneys, could potentially damage the brain, and it could even damage the reproductive system. But this is primarily seen when it is abused in supraphysiological dosages.
I had told him years earlier when he was taking the massive dosages that he's going to kill himself, that it was just too much. His body wasn't going to be able to handle it. And I also told him it was foolish because it wasn't going to do anything for him. It wasn't going to get him any farther. But he was kind of hard-headed.
The bodybuilding mindset very often is basically trying to win at all costs, and that's almost what it takes to win at a very high level in the IFBB professional league.
A growth hormone is really different. It's not a steroid, but it can help with, it's very useful in helping with, it actually can help break down fat. It does improve, it can increase the size of your organs, your heart, your kidneys, your intestines. I think you've seen that bloated look that bodybuilders have today. It's using too much growth hormone.
Insulin is the biggest culprit because I can take GH and I'll be fine, and then I'll take insulin and boom, within 30 minutes of a Humalog shot, my stomach just goes pop. Yeah. You know what I mean? And a lot of that is just it's not permanent, because I know it's not permanent, because if I get off the drugs, my distension goes completely away.
So growth hormone goes to the liver. Now there's a lot of thinking that IGF-1 in high levels is cancer producing. So there's controversy about that. I don't think we know for sure, but I would caution people about growth hormone. If you take it too long in an uninterrupted fashion, I don't think it causes cancer, but it could certainly feed a cancer that's there that you don't know about.
An experiment that I did in 2017 jacked my thyroid up because I never had a bad thyroid until then. The crazy thing with that, man, is like I got my blood work done and my thyroid was all fucked up, right?
Thyroid replacement is very big in bodybuilding because people want to, especially getting towards competition, because you want to lean out as much as possible. I don't really recommend it because you're playing with Mother Nature. And once you're on thyroid medication long enough, it will be your body will require the supplements the rest of your life.
Thyroid medications taken without monitoring the levels, people will be at risk for not only arrhythmias of a weird cardiac rhythm, putting them at risk for heart attacks and valvular disease of the heart, but also bone problems.
But the real detriment that I see is taking this too long, and then you're going to need thyroid forever. So who wants to take medication they may not need? You've actually made yourself hypothyroid for the long term by overusing thyroid hormone simply to get thin for a contest.
The training, I mean, who the hell wants to have a dieting, to 0% body fat, and then dehydrating yourself on top of that? It's dangerous. But at the end of the day, bodybuilding, just like any other elite sport, is very dangerous. And I think that was one of the things also that drew Boston to the sport. I think he liked the danger aspect of it.
With the amount of shit that I fucking injected in my body, I'm a realist, man. Like, yeah, I've experimented with crazy shit, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you like this shit's safe or, you know, so I'm not an asshole that's going to be like, yeah, I take all these drugs, but I feel great and there's no side effects and you know what I mean? I'm going to live till 100. I'm not that asshole, you know what I mean?
There's been some bodybuilders have passed away with use of diuretics, like right before competitions or even at competitions from over dehydration. But those are very limited in cases. I'm not saying that they're not harmful. I'm not saying that you can't abuse them. I'm not saying that someone can't get long-term health ramifications from using them.
Acute deaths occur from diuretic use, not so much from the anabolic steroid use. However, you can have an acute death from diuretic use, which is common among bodybuilders. So I think my first line of defense has actually been to educate individuals into the dangers of utilizing things like diuretics for peak week. And I think that's kind of the starting point, is educating individuals on that.
Boston even resorted to using the supplement iron developed and designed for pigs with anemia, not meant for human consumption.
There's a pig on, and if you read the ingredients, it says for your baby pigs, inject 1 ml. Guys, look. There's a pig on, there's a pig on it. That's awesome.
Bodybuilders often misuse steroids and derivatives, leading to temporary gains and euphoria. Pain from abuse may be countered with opioids like oxycodone or ephedra. Prolonged opioid use can damage organs, and even first-time users risk respiratory and cardiac arrest.
I fucking IV'd a whole oxy.
Oh my god! You IV'd an oxy?
I crushed it up with a hammer.
And an oxy that's better than heroin.
I got the oxy and I put it over a paper, crushed it with a hammer, put it in a cup, mixed it with 3 cc's of water, pulled it out with like a
3 cc's of water?
3 cc's of sink water.
I actually had a patient who was in his 50s, and he was a back patient, and he crushed up the medication that I gave him, and he snorted it, and he died. And I got a call from the sheriff's office letting me know that a patient had used a prescription that I legally gave him for a real diagnosis, that he used them inappropriate.
Usually I take a injectable ephedrine, right? Like 50 mgs, and it like lights me up. Like I feel fucking crazy and good in the gym, right? So I haven't taken it in a while because of the whole kidney thing, right? So when I got those bad blood results, I'm like, fuck you. I started shooting all this shit, right?
He didn't like the fact that he really couldn't take the drugs anymore that he was doing before. And he couldn't get past that. He couldn't deal with that. And so I think he was numbing the pain or numbing the reality of it with, doing some recreational type drugs that he never ever did, as far as I was concerned. In all the years I knew him, he was anti-drug, he was anti getting high and stuff like that. So that was not, typical Boston. And obviously that was because he couldn't deal with the reality of what was going on.
I think that as a person of who I am, it's something that I'm just gonna have to grow out of. I honestly think it's an illness because as much as I've tried to fix the issue, I always resort back to experimenting. Just to get out of the house, dude, I was in so much pain. And I didn't look good either, let alone I couldn't tie my shoes, I was so sore.
That's why I say it's such an addiction that needs mental health, behavioral health, and decent role models to show them that they can attain a natural physique and not hurt themselves.
Among bodybuilders, a common hormone-related challenge arose. The more steroids they took, the lower their sexual drive and sperm production.
Guys, it'll kill your sex drive. Like, forget about jacking off, forget about getting hard. You're not gonna have sex, especially not hot. So, for me, it's actually a benefit. Just find a girlfriend that doesn't need to be, pleased all the time.
To counter these side effects, Boston and his peers turned to fertility drugs like human chorionic gonadotropin, HCG, and human menopausal gonadotropin, HMG. a tactical approach to mitigate the impact of steroids on their bodies.
It was the weirdest shit shooting your dick with an insulin syringe. I mix it up.
Bro, you went in the top part of the cut.
Like here's your dick, you go on the side.
Oh yeah, but in the top part, not on the bottom part.
Oh no, on the bottom it tells you to. Like,
oh really? Okay.
My dick's like that big, shooting it like right here, but soft. So my dick's like soft, and I'm shooting it like right there. But dude, weirdest thing. So anyways, I shoot that shit, and I feel my shit growing like within 5 minutes.
The problems are these medications are quite powerful, and you really want to know the dosages, the amount, the frequency. Doing it without the supervision of a physician, doing it without knowing what you're doing, you can cause, to be fair, more harm than good, without a doubt.
So I was pre-cutting with a fucking shriveled ass dick, and then she was finally able to get me hard. But still wasn't a good hard on, dude. It was horrible. It was like it was like a 4-inch floppy dick. And then I tried fucking her and I just couldn't come. So I was like, we just gotta stop.
When bodybuilders take fertility drugs to restore these functions, it can potentially lead to a complete shutdown of the reproductive system.
Sometimes guys who were producing sperm, who stopped producing sperm, may or may not have recovery. Hopefully they will, but gosh, that would be horrible to lose your reproductive ability because you are trying to get a little stronger, a little faster. And that would have a really big impact on a person's life.
Synthol is very interesting. It's a medium chain triglyceride. It's an oil. You're injecting that into body parts like biceps, triceps, delts. First of all, with repeated injections, which is what you normally need, you may eventually develop what's called fibrosis of the muscle. I mean, this is one thing I would clearly stay away from. There's no advantage because it's basically, I call it liquid muscle. It's an instant way to make your muscles look bigger, but they look really fake.
I would say the pros, out of the guys that I know on a personal level, I sell to a lot of pros. Remember that I have pros that call me and, I'll give them a discount if they want to buy 5 or more or whatever. I would say 75% of the top guys are using oil. And if they're not using oil, they're shooting so much fucking gear that they don't need to use oil. They just volumize with all the gear they're using.
You're constantly injecting this oil, which is a foreign substance, into the muscle. The muscle has to react. So what it does, it starts forming scar tissue. It breaks down. It's not a pretty sight. And there have also been reports of nerve damage, blood clots. You're injecting oil into a muscle so it stands out more, but does not improve strength and does not improve overall muscle mass.
What happened was Boston took this peptide called adipotide, and you shoot it right in an area where it's supposed to kill fat cells. I don't know much about it. He didn't know much about it either.
There's no studies on humans. It's been used in mice and monkeys. It basically kills fat cells, However, again, there's no studies, there's no dosing protocols, and he admitted that he was using probably twice or 3 times what the average person would be using. And a known side effect is kidney failure in animals.
Boston also flirted with another dangerous substance used by a growing number of bodybuilders, which is a lab-made chemical called melanotan. Using an unregulated product that hasn't been properly tested could be extremely detrimental to a user's health.
There's no dosing studies online. I actually talked to a peptide expert the other day on this, and a guy who studies peptides, and he doesn't even know. He goes, dude, there's no research done on it. There's no dosing protocol. You're basically shooting yourself in the foot guessing on this stuff. Like literally, I had to be at my bed, and I was just puking up stomach bile, so I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know I was in kidney failure at that point.
You can see Boston talking in some of his talks like, oh yeah, I'm trying this peptide, right? I mean, he was like, here I am, this is what I'm doing. That also can be an argument from a professional perspective as a psychologist. I would say, well, he's becoming so blinded in his own addiction at this point that he will be open and honest enough to say, I'm doing this, but yet the people that are interviewing him are laughing, going, oh man, Boston, you just pushed the edge of the envelope and went way past it.
this was one of the things that he wanted to take and kind of experiment with. And he was pinning it in his lower back, so like right near there. And shortly after that was when he started to get really sick, and he was taking a way higher dose than he should have, like way higher dose than he should have. And it basically killed his kidneys.
Boston's early steroid use as a teen wreaked havoc on his kidneys. The warning signs of chronic kidney disease, CKD, appeared, but he ignored them.
Once his kidneys, started getting bad, and I realized that this is dangerous now. It's not funny anymore. And I said to him, look, you need to, clean up your act. You need to stop all this stuff you're taking, and you need to take this very seriously because you can reverse what's going on here. I said, and you're taking it too lighthearted. This is no joke anymore. Now you have a health issue, and I don't think he liked that because that was too truthful for him.
Unfortunately, when your kidneys are shot, school is out, and nothing's going to happen. So I really want to make that point quite clear, and I don't want people to get that message that, well, maybe I can just do all these other therapies and hopefully spare my organs and reverse them. Not when it comes to kidneys.
Tragically, Boston's kidneys began to fail entirely. At just 27, he reached stage 5 kidney failure, causing severe damage and nearing complete shutdown. With his kidneys unable to filter waste, dangerous toxins built up throughout his body, posing serious health risks to his heart and lungs. Dialysis or a kidney transplant was his only hope and chance for survival.
I said, hey, you know what? You got to take a step back now because, look, you have a family, you have a son. I said, and I don't want to see anything happen to you. You're young enough that you can overcome this and we can probably reverse it, but you got to change what you're doing. And I think once I started putting the pressure on him like that, that was kind of turning him away a little bit.
He is bright, but that was part of his downfall too. It was part of his downfall. He would walk into a room perhaps with a doctor and think, I know more than you about this. I'm okay with this. I'm going to do this and I'll take the risk because I like the results. And at that point, you're just watching. It's a tragedy in motion.
Seeking any possible hope to save his kidney function, Boston turned to stem cell therapy, an experimental treatment in the relatively new field of regenerative medicine. Despite the extreme dangers of non-medical use, Boston hoped stem cells could revive his kidneys.
Walking around, I think it was like a year and a half with stage 5. I never heard of that. A year and a half of stage 5 kidney failure. And then still trying experimental therapies, stem cells? I don't know what he was doing, but this is crazy stuff.
There have been cases, mostly in the bodybuilding arena, who believe very delusionally, I can just go and get some stem cells on the corner or down in Tijuana or wherever, and I can inject myself with it and fix myself as I damage myself.
So if you're getting stem cells from India and medications from China, let me tell you, if you ever look at videotapes on how the Chinese farm their fish for sushi, it's in a dirty sewer. There's no way. So you can't trust that over here, and I would never suggest putting that into our body.
I used to IV hell in Chinese growth.
Did you really?
Hell yeah. Dude, I've IV'd everything. I IV so much shit. I IV my TV500, my BP7, my stem cells. I IV so much shit these days.
And that is completely delusional thinking. I mean, it's misinformed. It just isn't going to work. It's not the way you treat your body.
No one stepped in and said, hey, we like your transparency, but are you freaking crazy? What are you going to do about it? More peptides? But stem cells? You can't regenerate a kidney that's dead. So I really want to make that point quite clear. No matter what he was trying to do with peptides and with stem cells to create new kidneys, we are so far off from that, okay, that it's just not practical.
The pursuit of physical perfection took a heavy toll on Boston. Addicted to performance-enhancing substances and pain meds, his health suffered greatly. The cocktail of steroids, peptides, growth hormones, and exotic drugs caused further severe kidney damage. Ignoring warnings, he remained trapped in addiction, leading to devastating consequences for his well-being.
There's no doubt that Boston took too many drugs. And there's no doubt that he probably had a lot of side effects from that in terms of not just physical side effects, but mental side effects. Bodybuilders have this love affair with injecting. And it doesn't even matter what they're injecting. It doesn't even have to be steroids. It could be vitamins. It could be anything. They like the needle for some reason. He said that bodybuilders have a love affair with the needle, and I think Boston is a perfect example of that.
Something traumatic happened in my life, and I had a heart attack, and I somehow survived. Hey, that might change me for life. I might say, fuck, I'm done with all this shit. But as far as right now, I'm 100% an addict, and I think most bodybuilders are addicts, but they're closet addicts. They don't like to admit it. Because listen, drugs are drugs. Whether you take cocaine, steroids, heroin, and whether you feel like you need to take them, which I feel like I need to take them, that's addiction, right?
But the addiction is, it messes with your thinking. It alters the way you look at reality. For every addict, clearly Boston was addicted to steroids. It doesn't seem to be any other way to look at it other than that. He was a victim of partly the time that he grew up in, you know what I mean, where everybody was doing it in the gyms.
We're not talking about heroin or a definite an opiate or something like that. I think the dependence on steroids and these substances is related, it's a psychological thing. There's a phenomenon in bodybuilding called bigorexia. You know what anorexia is? Bigorexia is I can't get big enough. I still look small. They look in the mirror. They see themselves as small. So this is a very common thing.
But Boston didn't take steroids because he wanted to compete. He took steroids because he loved taking steroids.
That's my nerve up in my arm. I just like to experiment, man. Like, obviously the more gear, it's not the better. There you are, right up there.
The reality was he just liked taking anabolic steroids. I mean, he liked the way he felt on them. He liked the way his body responded in the gym on them. And that was more important than competing.
It's a sickness. It's like an OCD sickness. You know what I mean? Like almost like a drug addict type of thing. Like I've actually wanted to seek help a little bit with the OCD, but there's a couple reasons why I won't. My OCD stems from steroid use and bodybuilding, so I would need to talk about that. And dude, I don't need a therapist. You know, if I'm going to tell him about steroids, I don't need him being like, oh, he has a child in the house.
And all these steroids and these drugs, performance-enhancing drugs, they also damage brain cells, and they cause the brain to secrete neurohormones that cause the athlete to become addicted. They're feel-good hormones. And so it's just a vicious cycle. It's a mental addiction and it's a physical addiction.
So it's very, very dangerous. It's insidious. And by the time people realize how bad it is, it's too late. It just takes what the toll that this abuse does to your body. I mean, Boston may have looked awesome, but his insides, his organs were dying.
I knew about his ailments. We talked, like I said, regularly, a few times a week at least. He finally admitted to me that, he realized that, he put himself in a bad spot. But at that point, he was so down the rabbit hole, it was too late.
I'm not a great bodybuilder by any means. I'm young, but I'm telling you right now that there are a lot of bodybuilders that use way more. So don't get like, oh, he's on so much gear, like he's gonna die by the age of 20. I have all these forums on the internet thinking I'm gonna die in like 2 years because of all gear. That's not the case. I have really good genetics.
His last set on there, I believe, was with 25-pound plates, which is way less than what I know he could lift, and he was struggling with it. I thought to myself that seemed off. He definitely kept grabbing his chest. You could tell something was off. He paced around the gym for a little bit. He had a few conversations with some other people, and then there was a point in time where he laid down on the floor. It almost looked like he was just trying to catch his breath.
Ariel called me crying, And she said that she was doing CPR on Boston, he fell to the ground, and he was being transported to the local hospital.
He had overtaxed his body because of drugs, eating lousy because he was depressed. It was a death wish.
And I just remember walking into exam room 10, I won't forget it, where I seen my best friend just lying there, just lifeless, you know, and I just didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I just looked at him and I just kept thinking that, you know, this isn't real.
Get bigger, die trying. When it comes to Boston Lloyd, I did read all the medical reports and the autopsy report in detail. He basically died a cardiac death. He died of what's called cardiac tamponade. So what happened, he had a tear in his aorta, just above the aortic valve, and he bled. You can't really survive, so that's almost a cause for sudden death.
Keep in mind, all the blood vessels that supply our organs are also affected by the anabolic steroid. That intima, that muscular layer of that artery and that vein can spasm, can lead to stroke, can lead to heart attack, and again, 29 and dead.
So I carefully reviewed the substances that he was taking prior to his death. I've never seen a list like that. I mean, I've seen some bodybuilders stacking in the past, professional bodybuilders, and it's astounded me. And of course, there was the peptide that led to the renal failure, the kidney failure, then thyroid, insulin, and all these things in combination in huge doses. So there's no question this had harmful effects.
He didn't listen to the doctors. He wanted to self-medicate himself through all these gurus online, which caused him even more to his death. He wasn't listening, he was going to do it himself.
There is no question in my mind, or anyone's mind really, that a prolonged use of steroids, especially in huge doses like this, could have effect on the heart muscle. It can actually weaken the heart muscle. You can have something that's called a cardiomyopathy. The cause of death really would be the tamponade. That's instant death. I mean, 14% of people die in a dissection before they get to the hospital.
6 weeks before my son passed away, I asked the father to come out here and I said, we need an intervention. And he said, oh, I was crazy. I said, no, we need an intervention.
We didn't ever do an intervention. Early 2022, Marie did call me about 6 weeks before the incident with him, and she said, we have to have an intervention with Boston. He's got a death wish. I go, I got mad at her. I go, you don't even know your son.
Boston Lloyd. I miss you.
I think that he felt that I'm going to live my life the way I want. I know it's selfish. I know it's ridiculous. I know I have a child who wants me around, but I got to be happy. And that was his motto. I have to be happy doing what I like to do. And if I can't do it, I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to want to be alive anyway. And I know it sounds absolutely insane, but look, you got to respect the guy for it, even though it's a selfish way to be.
When I went on Facebook and I seen it said RIP Boston, I thought it was a joke because, you know, Boston would troll people and people would troll Boston. Like, they would make memes about him. It was just a lot, man. Like, I was emotional for days. It's like I lost my best friend.
It was a very tragic situation, and I wish he could have recreated himself because he had the ability to do that. Because he was a very intelligent man. He understood human nature. He just couldn't get past, you know, the fact that he loved steroids.
Boston's death was not unique among bodybuilders. It is a very sad irony that less than 1 month before Boston's passing, he wrote an article on his own editorial page in Muscle Sport, where he personally noticed many of his own friends and colleagues passing away during the COVID pandemic, possibly due to compromised organs and immune systems from steroid use and then being attacked by the virus.
I was fucked up, man, and I never felt that sick in my life, and I was in bed all day just shaking, and then so after being sick for about a week, I took an at-home COVID test, and it was just so positive. Like, the line was just, I go to the emergency room, the doctor sits me down, he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, listen, And then the fucked up thing, Leo, is I could barely breathe, and they're making me wear a mask, and I'm just like dying in there, right? And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, listen, I'm in stage 5 kidney failure. I have COVID. I've tested positive. I'm very worried about my kidneys. I want to get some emergency blood work for my kidneys.
Studies have shown a disturbing trend of premature deaths in the bodybuilding community. There have been literally dozens of pro-quality bodybuilders who have recently passed away in their 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Boston was always talking about people who were going to die in the sport, like the people who were doing irresponsible things, and this guy's going to die, and that one died, and this one died because of this, and this one died of that, which was I always found interesting because he never really included himself in the list of people that potentially could die. And he was very accurate, unfortunately, about people who did die. And I don't want to mention names because I don't want to upset anyone, but there are a lot of people in our industry who did pass and that Boston predicted they would.
I would never say anyone's going to pass, and I guarantee you the 3 people that pass next are going to be unexpected, and it's going to be a shocker because Luke Sandow was a shocker, right? Dallas McCarver was a shocker. I mean, young, looked, looked great on the outside. It's just, you can never put a death wish on anyone. Fuck that.
A lot of people out there want you to think that steroids are not the problem. And maybe I can't say this steroid caused this person's death. It's the cumulative effect of stacking various steroids on the individual's heart, kidney, their hematologic or their blood counts and so forth. So I think it's a cumulative effect over a period of several years.
This is the problem with the whole bodybuilding world too, is that you get into kind of like the process addictions. A lot of people want to touch that body and be with that body, and there's all kinds of opportunities to get involved in cross-addicting, to sex addiction or something like that. So it becomes a lifestyle that was meant to be healthy to begin with, but for some people it becomes their downfall.
And people are dying right now, and unless they change the criteria of what is going on in bodybuilding, more and more people are going to die, just like my son. The bodybuilding world needs to change. The judges need to change the criteria of what bodybuilding is. And if they don't, there will be more and more people dying.
So, it is an addiction. People do get dependent on it. It affects their minds, their thoughts, how they feel, and how they act and behave, and it takes away some of the most precious lives that we've ever met, way before their time.
Get bigger, die trying.
I do think Boston's death was sort of a wake-up call for some people in the bodybuilding community. Of course, we have other people that died, but he was definitely the poster child for, what can happen, what can go wrong by abusing PEDs. And I think for a lot of people, it was a slap in the face about, hey, you better look after your health because this could happen to you too.
Boston Lloyd. I miss you.
Boston, and I'm not just saying this because Boston is my precious boy, which I love and miss so much. But you cannot find an individual that has more integrity, has more rawness, has more honesty.
He told people the truth. He said, this is the truth of what's going on. There are people who are abusing steroids. There are people who are taking them responsibly. And there is a safe way to do it. And he gave a lot of information. So in that sense, I think for a generation of people who watch him, I think it was a responsible thing. And I think it did help the sport of bodybuilding because he was basically pulling away all the curtains and saying, here, this is what's going on. Like it or not, this is what's going on.
I don't make a penny with YouTube. I don't make YouTube videos often, maybe once every couple months. I don't care about the views. In fact, I don't like doing videos because I get too blown, my email gets blown up too much.
I always believe in the truth, So I'd rather pull the curtains away and say, hey, this is what's going on. And he had the audacity and the balls to do it. He really did. I don't think I could have done that. So I respect that about him. So I think what he did was responsible, and I think what he did was good for the sport, even if people don't like the fact that the truth hurts.
His legacy was that he was a special person. He cared. But he is the man who told the truth, the myth, the man, the legend of bodybuilding, who told it like it was. Most of the things that he published was right on, and everybody loved him because he was so honest. So he was the first person to be honest in the bodybuilding world.
Well, I knew he touched a lot of lives, but the amount of messages I received after he passed, I can't even tell you. I still haven't opened like 80% of them, but the Facebook messages and the emails and the text messages and the Instagram messages of people whose lives he's changed, just saying, oh, he helped me out so much, he was so kind.
Boston Lloyd's impact is undeniable. His radical honesty sparked conversations and brought attention to substance abuse and mental health awareness in the fitness industry.
That was the last machine that he used. Yeah, we did it up in his traditional colors with orange and black. Yeah, his birth and his death dates are on there, Team 3CC. So I thought it was a great way to honor him. I'm very proud of that piece. I know a lot of people are thankful for it too.
Boston's picture sits on my desk at work. Every time I look at it, I just think of scaling myself and being a good dad, being a good role model. Because face it, when you come into a gym, there's a lot of people that have egos. So he made me a better person. He did.
As Boston Lloyd's story and legacy continue to unfold, questions arise about the industry's direction and the impact of his untimely demise.
I think one of the disappointing things about bodybuilding, especially on the professional level, is there really is no regulatory agency or body. There's no objectives like, who should get checked out by a physician? What tests should be done? I mean, that's the physician's job, of course. And I think herein lies the problem, because if they're not pushing it, who is? How many more deaths do we have to see?
I think people will take the drugs no matter what. Yeah, I think people are addicted to muscle. And the fans demand big, freaky guys. The judges are not going to say, hey, we don't want these guys too big. They're not going to do that. Because they know that's what sells tickets. Because we want to watch big, freaky guys. And we don't care what they got to take. And that's what we're willing to pay money for. And that, unfortunately, is the reality of the situation.
Boston Lloyd!
It might be time to establish more formal rules and requirements in bodybuilding, prioritizing competitors' health. Congress could step in if the industry won't regulate safety and call it Boston's Law, just as Congress did in other sports like pro football back in the 1920s. Boston's legacy raises profound questions about finding a balance between extreme physiques and athletes' well-being. Can the industry prioritize health without losing its appeal? His memory inspires change and sparks conversations about the future of bodybuilding. This might be just the beginning of his story.
I've been doing videos with this goat. This goat represents Boston. Why I did this show is he comes to me at night and he tells me what I need to do. So, Boston. Hi, Mom. How did you like the show? Mommy, I loved it. I'm very happy. I want everybody to know what is going on in the bodybuilding world. And I was the whistleblower to talk about what I was taking, my drugs, and what people were doing, and what trainers were killing people. But Mom, I was addicted myself, and I needed help. But I was too stubborn, but the addiction got to me. I lost my family, I lost my friends. And I came to you to tell you in this movie, to tell people what I did and not to do as I did. I love my family, and my son Jackson and Ariella. And please, please, listen to this documentary. I got sucked into the bodybuilding drug warfare. I am speaking from the grave, with my YouTube videos. Listen to me. Thank you. Boston, that was very nice. And I'm hopefully from the grave that you will talk. I miss you more than anything in the world. A mother to lose their only child is the worst thing that anybody could happen to. So we'll help people. And we'll help people so this doesn't happen to their family. Yeah, Mom. I love you. I love you too.
Boston Lloyd.
I miss you. Oh no, no.
Get big or die trying.
Oh, 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 no.
Get big or die.
I miss you. I don't wanna sit in silence.
Boston Lloyd.
I miss you.
Don't wanna sit in silence. No silence.
Oh, oh, no, no.
Get big or die trying. Get big or die. Dear Boston, looking back on your life, it was awesome. Still unbelievable just to say that we lost you. Looking at your mom and dad, they can't believe you gone. I bet Jackson like, when is daddy coming home? And your fiance strong, imagine feeling all alone. Every day she asking God, why'd you have to go? Now you live through us, and legends never die. Always looking at your pictures, trying not to cry. I know you smiling down from heaven, hope we make you proud. Even through your hard times, never wore a frown. Life is so amazing, you just gotta smile. You've been changing people's lives since you was a child. Yeah, it's been a while. Get big or die trying, bet they feel you now. Needles in, needles out, bet they see you now. Get big or die trying, bet they miss you now. Get big or die trying, bet they feel you now. Needles in, needles out, bet they see you now.